as according to your patience, which is also long.
3-4 hours.
3-4 hours. So I'm glad to hear that the family of Pastor Ken Garrison is here. It's a very nice, pleasant news and surprise event. And I also heard about that there are a few, half of the group are newcomers. That is to say, first time they're here. I know some of the faces, but some I got to know just today. So, welcome to Israel. And from what I heard already, the experience this time, which was relatively short in Kedumim, left a good taste in your mouth, and I understand you'll come again. So we are looking forward already for the next visit. I'll tell you what I was thinking to speak about today. I thought about the connection between politics and religion. I know that from what I know of the previous groups from your church that visited here, that you like political issues, and usually people speak about like pioneering and doing the kind of the work that you do and visiting places and personal experience and so on and so forth. And I thought maybe I'll touch some political issues, current political issues, and I will connect them with of course, my understanding of their religious meaning, and well, we'll soon find out if we share similar understanding of what is going on around us. So maybe the one disadvantage of the choice of this issue is that maybe it doesn't suit so much the atmosphere of Shabbat. But I'm not going to do it pessimistic, but optimistic. So it will suit Shabbat. And I'm not going to make it optimistic because I want to do anything artificial. This is my observation of the events. In your previous visits to Kedumim, when we spoke, we mentioned the development of our community and other communities in Judea and Samaria. Yet at the same time, we related to difficulties, to terror, to political pressures from inside the country, from outside the country, from Europe, from the United States. And often the question was raised, if not orally, then in your minds, in our minds, so what will be? With so many pressures from Europe, from the United States, from the left side of the political map, what will be with Judea and Samaria? What will be with Judea and Samaria? Okay, so there is a development, and it's developing all the time and getting better and better. But pressures and pressures, and as you know, there was, we all know, there was that pressure on the declaration of an independent, God forbid, Palestinian state in the land of Israel. There was also, in my opinion, the terrible declaration of Netanyahu about the two-state solution. So what will be? What will be? What will be with all the beautiful communities here? And the question was raised, and the doubts, I wouldn't say doubts about the future, but because we are all believers. So it's not a doubt about the final result of everything that we do in the Holy Land. We all know that we will succeed and prosper, and you are with us, so we are not to fear any even hardships. But what will be, and with the world pressing, with the idea of, God forbid, taking this holy land and cutting it into two, and we know that we cannot know what is the will of God. what is maybe the will even, yes, but the plan, how to reach the goals, how to come closer to the vision, to the final goals. And there is an expression in Hebrew. I will try to translate it to English. In Hebrew, it comes in it appears in one of the books of our sages. Dliga Elokit Pitomit. Dliga means a sort of leap, a sort of jump, like that you expect things to proceed this way, and all of a sudden you find yourself, or events, or historical events, or before that political events, things changed completely. We call it godly. It's it means sudden, godly leap, change, jump. Like no human being can do it, but God can do it. So all of a sudden you find yourself in a different location. I remember, and we all remember, I just remind us all how it started with the revolutions in the Arab world, in North Africa, in Egypt, in Yemen, how the Arab world started changing. I remember when things became very tense, and that square in Cairo, we call it Kikar Tahrir square, they started speaking about spring in like the spring of nations, in very they painted it with beautiful colors, and there's going to be a democracy and a very positive change, and so on and so forth. And I thought from the beginning that it didn't seem to me like it was spring. It was more like the storms of winter, or the heat of a very hot, difficult summer. And I said, okay, I said to myself, it has a role in exposing what are really the undercurrents in the Arab world. In any case, it slowed down at that point the pressures on Israel. It's true that the leftists in Israel always connect changes in the world with one conclusion: so we have to withdraw from Judea and Samaria. But when we put the extreme leftist attitude aside, and I think we should put it aside, then we see that the changes in the Arab world, I wouldn't use the expression. It sounds naive that it changes completely the world, but like it creates a certain. It forces the world to stop. I wouldn't say to think, but to stop. So, like people stop because something is happening and it doesn't go exactly the way they planned and exactly the way they saw it from the start. I would like to relate now to an ongoing, I say it sorrowfully, you will soon understand why, even about what's going on in Syria. Because we are all human beings, and when we see the terrible killing in Syria, we cannot say, I don't say this, okay, they are Syrians, they kill one another, never mind. No, I never speak in these terms. I never think in these terms. What do you mean they kill one another? These are human beings. These are families, children. It's a terrible thing. While driving a few days ago, I heard on the radio former member of Knesset Geula Cohen on a radio program. She said that one of her grandchildren, very young boy, said, oh, so thank God that we didn't give away the Golan Heights, because had we given it away, these Syrians would have been on the Golan Heights, in the Galilee, in Israel. Like, this is the observation of a child. I just heard it while driving. So when we see what is going on in Egypt, what's going on in the Arab world in general, when we see what's going on in Syria these days, I say to myself, I say to you, before all this agitation, because all these revolutions started, we thought that everything will be centered on us here, on Judea and Samaria, on the settlements. If you just withdraw from Judea and Samaria, all the problems of the world will be solved. Just these communities. So I just brought with me this, I guess some of you know that...
I happen to have a map with me.
So I brought this too. With their red. And I said, taking away these dots was to be the solution of all the problems of the world. Here, if only we leave these communities, and if we just center in the coastal strip, everything will be served. And now, my way of analyzing the events, the worldly events, the regional events, that it is all directed in a plan that is not human, in a plan that is all God's plan to take the attacking powers from concentrating on Judea and Samaria and making the problems, creating problems among themselves, between themselves, instead of concentrating on us and on our communities. I would like to say that, and this I say with some sadness in my heart, I share this with you, that the reason you'll soon understand why I say it with some sadness in my heart. I speak openly to you because I believe that your prayers can help, and your identifying with our difficulties as it has always helped us, so it will in the future. It is very saddening that our Prime Minister, Netanyahu, I would say is the last personality, I'm saying something very strange, that is not so much for the communities. I know it sounds strange. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Not at all.
No, I'm not. And it's a bit, I mean, maybe it's not a subject that should be raised on Shabbat, but I've raised it already, and I thought about raising it. So I can say I still don't say it with a light heart. I say it with a very heavy heart, because we would want to see Netanyahu with us, with the communities, with not just supporting, but like changing it from, if now we are like, as we say, east of the Green Line, 600,000 Jews, including Jerusalem, 600,000 Jews, said 10% of the Jewish population in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, live here. I mean, east of, I call it Obama lines. Because he united the Ramot Eshkol with Kedumim and with the Elon Moreh and Kiryat Arba. So we could be, instead of 600,000 Jews, we could be here 2 million, 3 million. And it's it's a pity that, that with the freeze, and there is still a freeze. You see in community, in Kedumim, thank God, nice building, a lot of building, but it's not enough. And it's not because of our mayor. Our mayor does a lot in order to build and build and build. But what is being built in Kedumim today cannot even answer the needs of the youth in Kedumim. And it's a pity. And we have our prime minister who is not only a right-wing, it's the head of the great Israel, all the parties of the great Israel concept. So it's a pity, and I will not leave you just with this observation, because as I said, my attitude is optimistic and not in an artificial manner, in every manner. But I want you to know at least the way I analyze things, and as I just said, with your knowing it and knowing it and understanding it, you will also direct the prayers to the right direction. I'm not in charge of all your prayers, but but I can recommend that whatever has to do with Kedumim and with the communities will go to, and I will explain. You know, from your religious understanding and from what your pastor tells you and what you read in the Bible, and we see that wherever there is a real holy thing, a real, I would say, thing of meaning, there are difficulties surrounding it. Now that we are so close to, and I return to this, like to cover all the land with settlements, we are so close to it. We are everywhere. And the numbers are getting bigger and bigger. And you saw the fields, and you saw the groves, you saw the olive groves, you saw the vineyards, you saw the beauty. And even when you come this time of the year, everything around is so green. And you saw, I heard that you heard Rafael and Avi's daughter speaking here, and you see the grandchild of Leah and Shlomo. You see the second generation, and you see the third generation. So, like, everything goes in the positive direction. So it is, and I speak to people who believe and understand the language that I use. It is when you come so close to the good point, there is so much objection. It comes in different ways. Why should it come from Netanyahu? Or why should it come through this personality or another personality? Is again a religious question. It has to do with God's guiding the world, God's deciding for us, for the world. But we are close to a point where everything will be good. And at this point, we encounter the biggest difficulties. The opposition. And the opposition from whom? From the person who should have been the closest to us. To say that he was here in Kedumim and I visited it, and I met him a lot of times, and so what? It is at this point that Prime Minister Netanyahu is to be very strong and not to rely on the roots. This is the face of the earth, and the depth are as deep as possible. That the roots come like up to this point, it's not enough. It has to be much deeper. And deeper is not just an article that you read here or an analysis that you read there. It should be as deep as faith, as deep as Tanach, as we say, as deep as the Torah, as deep as what we got from Mount Sinai. Not less than that. Because when you encounter the most difficult tests, you have to be the strongest. And often people ask me, did you speak to Netanyahu? It's not a question I speak. I remember when Ariel Sharon was Prime Minister, at times before when we were building the communities together, we used to speak a lot, to work a lot. But then when he changed his attitude, then I could speak to him like I could speak to a wall. Today, to speak to him as he did, like speak to a wall. But even when he wasn't in the position that he is today, it was like speaking to the wall, to a wall. Meaningless. I could speak to Netanyahu, so what? There are pressures from here and pressures from there, and you don't know. And I had my talks with Obama and with Blair and with Angela Merkel, and you have no idea, as we say, what you see from there, you cannot see from where you are. What we need is the depth of faith. And when you don't have this, then it is very hard indeed to encounter the pressures of the world. So how God helps, I just touched a few political aspects, or just a very brief political analysis of all the agitation that is going on in the Middle East. It sort of puts everybody like, stop! Look at what's going on around you. You mean that with everything everybody says, you have no idea what can happen any minute in Jordan. You have no idea, who knows what will be in Syria, who knows what will be in Egypt. Sinai is a place of terror, of drugs, of infiltration from Africa. So in this situation, you want to cut the country into two. In this situation, you want to take all these communities and throw them away. I mean, I wouldn't say people understand it to its depth, to its height, but it makes people feel, at least, that things are changing in the world. And this is what it's not my definition, I use the definition by some of our sages. This is a godly lead, a godly deed that makes people stop, change, think, and at least when I relate it directly to the pressures that were imposed on Israel in connection with our communities here, less pressure. Less pressure. This enables us to proceed. I would like to one of the ladies here asked me to relate to the Hilltop Youth, and I will do it. I'm very much, work a lot, especially since I left my position here as the mayor of Kedumim. I work a lot with the Hilltop Youth, and I'm sure that you read in the newspapers about what we call it Noah Gvaot, and the translation to English is the Hilltop Youth, the youngsters, the pioneers, who live on the hills, on the mountains, in new outposts. So I want you to know that I work a lot, day and night, with these young people. And I know that some people in Israel, I don't know how it is, how it reaches you, but many people, or part of the people in Israel are very much critical of what they call the behavior or the philosophy or the very idea of building new outposts that constantly clash with the government policy. I want you to know, and again I do it from a religious point of view, that according to one of the big sages of the Jewish religion, Ramban, it was Rambam and Ramban, we are not allowed to leave any part of the land of Israel without our being there, without Jews being there, and when you come and support, without you. And not only we are not allowed, not only are we not allowed to live it without a presence of a Jewish community, we are also not allowed to live it like a wild place. If I take the example of Park HaTznirim that you built, and you remember how it was like just rocks and very, I wouldn't say neglected place, but a wild place, and you make it a cultivated, beautiful place. We are to do a thing like that on every single hill in the land of Israel. Now, the young people who do it today are in constant clash with Netanyahu and Barak's policy. And this is why we encounter so many difficulties. And what my friends here in Kedumim know very well, that I spend my days and my nights with these young boys and girls who live on the hills in very, very, very primitive conditions. And we have undergone destructions of our homes, of our shacks, of everything that we do. And yet we build again and again, some places like 500 times. 500, not 5 times. And I can tell you from knowing these young people from very close that that they are indeed the best young people in Israel today. And again, if I connect this with a point that I mentioned before, it is Dafka, it is specifically because of the reason that these young boys and girls are so pure, so dedicated to the land of Israel, that they really touch the real point that we are not allowed to live even one hill in the land of Israel without Jewish presence. It is exactly because of this point, that this holy point, that we are a cause for ongoing, for constant clash. I believe that, and this is why I dedicate my life, indeed my life, to living with these young people. I dedicate, I share with them my days and my nights, because I believe that just as we had the role when we came here to Shomron 36 years ago and more, so we have a role today to continue the act of redeeming the land. And this is what we do with the young ones. People ask me, do you think that with building an outpost that being destroyed 50 times, 70 times, 100 times, and building it time and again, you will be able to push, to put aside, to bring an end, this is our goal, to the policy of a two-state solution, which is the official policy of Prime Minister Netanyahu. So I gave you already the answer, which is my attitude. I believe that it is God's thing. It is Netanyahu will be changed, and Netanyahu's terrible declaration of a two-state solution will be cancelled by God. And the picture that I do here in a very concise way is just part of the plan as I understand it as a human being. But as far as us, people, pioneers, who continue the work of redeeming the land, I believe that the work of the young ones, the dedication of the young ones in the outposts to build and to redeem another hill and another hill and another hill, to build another outpost and another outpost, this will be in the combination of the worldly events and the act that we do every day and every night in a very dedicated way, and we never despair, and I believe that it has the power, the spiritual power and the physical power to change even the terrible plan that is called a two-state solution. To people who ask me, how are you so sure that such a naive thing, like building a shack here and a shack there, staying on a hill for months in spite of all conflicts and confrontations and clashes, what makes you believe that this will be the solution? I can tell you the answer, give it the answer to you through a sort of question. If what we do on the hills is so tiny and meaningless and can be driven away so swiftly, so quickly, if it's so meaningless, why work so hard on not enabling us to stay? Sometimes they let us stay a month on a hill. But if it's something so insignificant, let us stay on the hill. No, it is not a meaningless thing. It is full of meaning. And this is why there is so much energy directed in and this is why there is so much energy from the government, from Netanyahu, from the IDF, from the police, from all government directions, not to let us stay, even on the most remote hill, but we insist. And I can tell you one or two or three examples. There is an outpost that we built near Kochav HaShachar. The place is called Moses Ter, and I think it was destroyed like 30 times or 40 times, and still the families there, they are very, very stubborn, very, very much with a very strong, deep dedication. They have put a lot of their own savings in building the shacks and later the houses. And I was there last week, came there very late at night, and I was I was amazed to see that with all the difficulties and with everything that we went through in this specific outpost, the family are still there. We planted there an olive grove, and I saw the trees, and I saw how the place is developing in spite of all difficulties. And I said to myself, if it weren't for this outpost near Kochav HaShachar, then the Bedouins that live in the valley nearby, they would have come to Kochav HaShachar. Last week I was in a place called Sela, Reches Sela. It is near Bracha, and we planted there olive trees. And I think you know the place of Bracha. You visited Bracha. If not, I recommend very much that you visit the place. And I saw the vineyards that are spread in the area from the old settlement of Bracha to the edge of the mountain ridge. And people explained to us that if it weren't for the young people who live in that remote outposts, all the vineyards that are in between couldn't develop because of the strong opposition from the village of Arad Borin. Some of the people here know the places. So, well, you'll get to know, as you get to know more and more of Israel. So, I told you in my opening sentences that with all the difficult, that I will end, and not in an artificial way, in a very deep way, that with all the difficulties that we encounter, political from outside and political from inside, with all the difficulties, I do see an optimistic picture, because I see that the present situation is a situation that where you see the success of the settlements and the settlement movement on the mountains, which is the heart of the land of Israel, the place of Shiloh, Beit El, and of course, Yerushalayim, Shechem, Hebron. Dafka, as we say in Hebrew, that we see the strength of the communities and the development of the communities and the achievements. Then the pressures get strong, but according to a godly plan, which thank God we can see with our human eyes. The difficult tests of the time are moving aside, and we can see it. And I thank God that we have this second and third, and to some even the fourth generation that continues the work of redeeming the land. Now, I finish by addressing you directly. Yes, we see the light, and we see how we get out of difficulties. But at the time of a test, like in which we are situated today, in which we are today, yes, we need the prayers of all our friends. Because it is not so easy in this respect that even people who are close to us in the idea of the great Israel, like our present Prime Minister, who's to be then also, according to our analysis, is probably he will be the next Prime Minister too, with his weakness and with his attitude to the settlements. We need another godly leap, and we need a lot of prayers from us and from you. And I know that you are very close friends, and I know that you're very much identified with what you do here, with what we do here. So when we combine your prayers with our prayers, your will with our will, and we put it together with the achievements that we see already, then all this together will bring you here next year when we say that there was another leap bigger than the ones we have seen already. Thank you very much.